Terry Cassidy from Project Camelot. We're here today with Leo Zagami, and we're going to be covering the Illuminati and their role on the world scene and exactly what their MO is, as well as their agenda. All right? So welcome, Leo, and thank you very much for bringing us into your house. We're very excited to be here with you today and be able to get a picture of the kinds of things that you've been part of in the past and maybe your vision as to where things might be going in the future as well.
My name is Leo Lion Zagami. I'm now 37, soon to be 38, born the 5th of March 1970, from an English-Scottish mother and a Sicilian father, both of aristocratic origin. One represents the Di Gregorio family of Sicily, which is an ancient aristocratic family connected to the Sacred Roman Empire, while instead my mother is a Lion family member of the Scottish Lion family, which is also the family of the Queen Mother of England, connected to the Queen. So basically I was born within an aristocratic background. For that reason, it was possible for me from an early age to enter what is the world of the elite and what you know as the Illuminati, that are still existing today in various forms and different disguises and different names. But mainly they work for a pyramid of power that ends up in Jerusalem and Rome, and that represents both the Vatican and the Zionist establishment, together united to perform what they would like to be the New World Order, which is the result of their prophetic upbringing into this end-of-time scenario in which they see as a final result the Kingdom of God. Now the Kingdom of God perceived by the Dark Illuminati, as I call them, because we have also Illuminati that are truly illuminated by God, and then we have the corrupt Illuminati, the evil forms of corruption that came into being, and at that point to regain power, which they did, they unleashed a series of agents around all the secret societies of the time, and they also established and helped establish the Illuminati Order of Weishaupt, which saw within their members some very illustrious characters, like for example Napoleon, who was initiated himself by Cagliostro, Giuseppe Balsamo, and when he was a young lieutenant coming from Corsica. And this changed the history of Europe, because the great influence of the Jesuits upon, for example, Napoleon made sure that there was a clear revenge against what was perceived to be the enemies of the Vatican themselves at that time. The Jesuits, a clear revenge towards their enemies inside the Vatican, and this might have been also the Knights of Malta that in that period with Napoleon lose, for example, their island and their sovereignty on that island.
Okay, can you give me a definition of the Freemasons and how the Freemasons differ from the Illuminati?
The Freemasons come into being from a tradition which is both from the ancient craftsmen. They used to work within the churches, so the people who knew how to construct churches were the Masons. They transmitted this craft, and on top of that, the knowledge to build those churches was a sacred knowledge, and that knowledge was given to them by the Knights Templars, that were the ones who traveled far east and conquered the land of Jerusalem and made sure that for a long time the Vatican was in control of the Holy Land. And so there is basically an ancient tradition that forms the Freemasons, but it's a self-made sometimes tradition with a lot of legends that have been deliberately created to misguide people and manipulate them. So then we have also the birth of the high degrees of Freemasonry, which are typical to what is known as the Scottish Rite system, for example with Cavalier Ramsay, which represented the Stuart family, which was a Scottish family that wanted to get into the throne of England for a long period of time, but the Hanoverians had their best, and the Hanoverians created themselves their own form of Freemasonry. So in a way Freemasonry was born with these two different oppositions inside, but they were oppositions just for the lower level of the pyramid, because on top everything is united. Even the enemies.
You're saying the Freemasons and the Illuminati were united at the top of the pyramid, even back then?
Freemasons are themselves a creation of the Rosicrucians, okay? Now, where do the Rosicrucians come from? The Rosicrucian Enlightenment comes into being in the 1620s with a guy called Jan Valentin André. He spreads these Rosicrucian manifestos that are secretly put in various places where people can see that there is a secret order, a secret college of initiated beings that existed from before. So they claimed that they were already an old order back then. But who are really the Rosicrucians? Well, the birth of the Rosicrucian coincides with the Neoplatonics of Oxford, with what happened when Giordano Bruno, this important Dominican who was also put on the stake later on by the Vatican in the year 1600, the year of the Jubileum, because he was accused of being not only an heretic, but of having used his magic and his evocation power. Giordano Bruno was a guy of great intelligence, and he went around Europe at that time trying to oppose in a certain way what the Vatican was doing, manipulating temporal power instead of spiritual power. That's why Luther came around, that's why the various schisms that were happening at that time. Scandinavia was breaking away, the Netherlands, England broke already away. They were all breaking away from the Mother Church in Rome. So there was definitely a lot of problems back then. Giordano Bruno went to visit Queen Elizabeth, became friends with John Dee. John Dee, this great magician, this great alchemist. He instructed him on the secrets that only Giordano Bruno knew about certain ancient practices from Babylonia, from Sumerian times. And after that he traveled also to the court of other characters, the French king, the Spanish king. He met all the aristocrats of the time, but what happened after was that this was the cornerstone, this Neoplatonic society with John Dee, Giordano Bruno, the inspiration of Tommaso Campanella, the inspiration of Roger Bacon before Sir Francis Bacon. This is the fundaments that really lead to the birth of Freemasonry. The problem is, after we have the evil Illuminati coming into the picture. So what was the Rosicrucian tradition up until the birth of the Royal Society gets scrapped off the map for terrestrial interest. So what they are trying to do in 1717 with the formation of the first Grand Lodge of Freemasonry at the Goose and the Gridon pub in London, it's already something corrupt, because the Illuminati, the real Illuminati that preceded them, didn't want in any way to have any kind of deal with the church. While instead Freemasonry was born itself as a deal between the Catholics, the Protestants and other people to meet up in a common ground, which was the lodge.